Okay, this unreasonable boss wants to make his employee work 60 hours a week, and he doesn't want to pay a dime overtime. I don't think this is legal. Fortunately, this employee stood up for his rights. I'm here with Braxton Wood, career coach. We're going to break this down.
Telling off your unreasonable boss, number 59. Sean, what are you doing right now? Why aren't you answering your phone? Hello? You better not be at home again. Brent, relax. I'm on site doing an install. What is it?
We're off to a great start here.
Yes, I'm working. What is the problem? We just got a call from a lawyer saying they represent you. What is going on? For 4 years, I have worked from home and always traveled for jobs when it was needed. Then Carrie...
Okay, let's talk about this for a minute because we know exactly what happened. This guy was smart. He kept working for the employer because why give up a good job if you got it? But he's not being paid appropriately. So he got a lawyer to send a demand letter, and that's who this guy just talked to. So this is the first shots fired of this incident. Braxton, have you ever had a client or have you ever sent a demand letter to an employer?
No, we always leave that to guys like you. But I do have, but we always have employers that are just rubbing their employees the wrong way, and the employees often don't know their rights. And so, I might coach them on helping them understand what needs to be done just from a management perspective and from a, mitigating the situation. But ultimately, I'm always going to send them over to someone like Ryan.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens next because now they're already in conflict.
Carrie left, you replaced him, and suddenly it's a problem. Sean, not this again. You know your salary, so if you're needed to work 60 hours a week and weekends, then that's your job. As I've told both you and HR, that isn't the problem, Brent. For some reason, you all seem to think that salary means you don't get paid overtime.
Okay, so he's not wrong, actually. When you are salaried, a lot of times you're actually salaried exempt, and that means you don't get any overtime. But what this employee figured out is that his employer might have been gaming the system. Because just because your employer says you're exempt doesn't mean you're exempt. You have to make at least a minimum certain amount of salary, and you have to have the right job duties. Based on this text message exchange, I got a feeling that this employee is blue collar, maybe a labor or skilled trade. What do you think, Braxton?
Yeah, I believe he was some sort of like a field worker, like installing IT or maybe internet service, something like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there is such thing as called the IT professional exemption to overtime, in which case he wouldn't actually be entitled to the overtime. But if he's just there as a laborer, like a helper or doing some kind of install, he's going to be non-exempt and he's owed a lot of overtime. Let's see what else happened. Great video, man.
That's not how it works. It's against the law, and for some reason you guys think I don't get that. You've got it wrong, Sean. It's not illegal. Is that what my lawyer told you? Why does he think I have a case then, Brent? Did you think of that? Look, I like my job, but what you're all trying to pull isn't cool. Sean, call your lawyer off. Why? By now, I'm sure the lawyer has told HR that if this isn't rectified and I get paid what is owed to me, they're going to have to pay the state 50% of what is owed to me in fees on top of it. You put the company in a bad position, Sean. No, the company put itself in a bad position, and I'm done going back and forth with you on this. You can talk to my lawyer. Sean.
Mic drop. Wow. Braxton, what do you think about this?
The biggest thing I love is that the lawyer did a lot of due diligence to educate their client on what was going on and what was going to happen. And that just gave him, more fuel to the fire, so to speak, to help him, just feel empowered with the situation that he's in. I love it.
Yeah, once you know your rights, you become way harder to mess with. Now, it's interesting. If the guy is IT, then he might be wrong. But a lawyer actually looked at this. I don't think he's a true IT professional. He's probably an assistant or something like that. I do misclassification cases like this all the time. And it's so funny because the employer will try to educate me, the labor lawyer, on why they don't have to pay overtime and how it's perfectly legal because they Googled it and whatever popped up on Google told them so. Google's a terrible lawyer. And big companies mess this up all the time. So people got to pay attention to this. Sometimes salary is a bad deal. Sometimes salary comes out to you making less per hour. And sometimes they put you on salary. It's not even legal. You're supposed to get that overtime. So what do you think is going to happen next? Are they going to try to can this employee for speaking up?
I don't know. I think this is close to the end of the video, but I know what the other thing, and maybe you would have a take on this. If a lawyer's contacting me, then I already know I shouldn't be contacting the lawyer's client, right? Because anything that the client would have to say will just go through the lawyer. So it's pretty. It's a pretty
that's an interesting point.
Yeah, big ballsy move on the employer's part to even go and try and have the employee call the lawyer off in the first place.
I've seen it both ways, Braxton. I've seen it where the employer tries to intimidate the employee and says, come on, let's be reasonable. Like, don't you care about your career? Everything I've done for you, blah, blah, blah. They try to do that. And I always instruct my clients, look, they're going to try to talk you out of it. They're going to say they're sorry, or they'll try to be scary. Stand firm. Because here's the thing that they don't want you to know. They want to fire you. They're mad about this. They want to fire you, but they're not firing you. And the reason they're not firing you is because once you've made the complaint about the unpaid wages, it's a protected activity. So now if they fire you, boom, it's retaliation, it's wrongful termination. They can go ahead and add a zero to whatever the damages would have been. So this employee is in a pretty tough bargaining position. The employer needs to mind their P's and Q's around this guy. I mean, what advice would you give to the employee in this situation? He seems to be handling himself pretty well.
Yeah, he went somewhere to educate himself for sure. I think one thing that sticks out to me is that, the whole basis of why all this is happening for the employee is because his previous boss left the company and got replaced by someone else. And everything about how the employee conducted himself, conducted his work, it was never a problem until the new boss came into place. So to me, you tell me, Ryan, I think that almost sets a precedent where there's not any real issue. And because the employer is trying to do a bait and switch on the employee almost, that would create grounds for a case as well.
That's where a lot of this stuff comes up, and it's where I see it in my practice, is when you have a changing of the managers, that's when we start seeing a lot of wage and hour violations. It's also where we see a lot of like race and sex discrimination, stuff like that, because you have an old manager who was cool, he hired someone, he treated him right. Then the new manager comes in and they decide that they don't like people of color, or they don't like paying overtime, or they don't like disabled people. And that new manager doesn't know the law. That's the thing that I would impress upon employees, anyone watching this, is your employer is not a labor law expert. They don't know your rights. They don't even care to know your rights. They heard at-will employment once when they were young, and they cling to that, and they really think they can do whatever they want. So if something feels wrong, talk to a lawyer.
For sure, yep.
Well, that's it, everyone. We're telling off unreasonable bosses. I'm here with career coach Braxton Wood. I'm the labor lawyer attorney Ryan. We're breaking these down for you. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe and learn your rights.